Could love lead to a horrifying end, a crime so chilling it defies belief? Today, we delve into a tale of passion that spiraled into a nightmare. Meet Patrick de la Cerda, a man whose love story didn't just end in heartbreak, but in a crime that chilled the nation. A man who loved deeply yet found himself at the center of a horrifying narrative, a tale of love turned fatal. Join us as we uncover the chilling reality of this true crime story. In the vibrant city of Miami, two hearts met and fell in love. Patrick de la Cerda, a man of charm and charisma, encountered an enchanting woman who was drawn to his magnetic personality. Miami, with its stunning beaches and lively nightlife, served as the perfect backdrop for this budding romance. Their connection was instantaneous and powerful, like a lightning bolt striking in a clear sky. They laughed together, shared dreams, and painted a picture of a future filled with shared joys and companionship. The early days were blissful, filled with romantic dinners under the Miami sunset, long walks along the beach, and a deepening bond that made them inseparable. Their love story was like a beautifully written novel, each chapter more captivating than the previous one. It was a relationship that seemed to have sprung straight out of a Hollywood movie, filled with passion, romance, and promises of a happy ending. But little did they know this love story was set for a horrifying turn. As time passed, love turned into obsession, and the once charming Patrick started showing alarming signs. The metamorphosis of Patrick de la Cerda was both subtle and insidious. His charm, once a beacon of warmth and affection, began to flicker with an unsettling intensity. This was not the fiery passion of a man in love, but rather a dangerous obsession slowly taking root. His behavior started to change almost imperceptibly at first. He became more possessive, his need for control creeping into every aspect of their relationship. Every interaction was scrutinized, every decision questioned. Love notes turned into inquisitions, and romantic dinners became interrogations. His once enchanting smile was now often replaced by a brooding frown. One could see the tension mounting in the relationship. Patrick's eyes, once filled with love, now held an unsettling gleam. His affections, previously a source of comfort, became a shackle. His touch, once tender, was now possessive. He had become a puppeteer, pulling the strings of a relationship that was increasingly becoming a twisted dance of dominance and fear. His partner, once radiant and full of life, was now often seen with a haunted look. The light in her eyes was fading, replaced by a growing fear and uncertainty. Her laughter, once infectious, was now rarely heard. She was in the grip of a man whose love was metamorphosing into a dangerous obsession. But the warning signs were ignored or dismissed. Friends and family, seeing the change but not understanding it, chalked it up to the pressures of a new relationship. But beneath the surface, a sinister plot was unfolding. Patrick's behavior was not just the result of stress or insecurity, it was a calculated, methodical manipulation. A game he was playing, and one he was determined to win. Yet, no one could guess the horrifying end that was in sight. A night of paralyzing fear, a malevolent act that sent seismic shockwaves through Miami. This was no ordinary night in South, it was a night that would be forever inscribed in the memory of its residents, a night when an act of unfathomable violence unfolded. Patrick de la Cerda, a man once known for his magnetic charm and captivating charisma, was the orchestrator of this heinous act. The evening was as ordinary as it could be until it was torn apart by a display of horrifying savagery. Patrick, fueled by jealousy and rage, committed an act so monstrous that it still sends icy waves of dread down the spine of those brave enough to recall. The first reaction to the crime was one of absolute disbelief. How could a man known for his warmth and affability commit such a monstrous act? The peaceful neighborhoods of Miami were plunged into a vortex of shock and terror as news of the horrible act spread with virulent speed. Parents clung to their children tighter, and an oppressive sense of unease hung in the air, as heavy as a shroud. The tranquility of the city was replaced with a palpable sense of fear. The immediate aftermath of the crime was pandemonium. Law enforcement sprang into action, their sirens screaming through the night, piercing the eerie silence. The crime scene was a terrifying tableau of horror, a brutal testament to the malevolence had blanketed the city. The investigators worked relentlessly, their faces etched with steely determination and a somber vow to bring justice to the victim. The crime was a grim reminder of the fragility of love and trust, a testament to the consuming darkness that can lurk within the human heart, capable of twisting love into hatred, trust into treachery. This was more than a crime. it was a horrifying desecration of the sacred bond of love. This was an act that would forever scar a love story into a nightmare, a tale of romance that climaxed in a sickening tragedy. The memory of this gruesome act would forever cast a long, foreboding shadow over the city of Miami, a chilling reminder of the horrifying conclusion to a love story. As the investigation began, the depth of Patrick's obsession started to unravel. It was a twisted labyrinth, a chilling testament to the lengths a man consumed by fixation could go. The detectives were now in a race against time, piecing together the puzzle that was Patrick de la Cerda. The first step was to comb through Patrick's personal life, his relationships, his habits. They discovered a pattern of obsession, control, and manipulation. Each relationship Patrick had was marred by these tendencies, painting a picture of a man who saw people as possessions rather than individuals with their own autonomy. Then came the hard evidence. Forensic teams scoured the crime scene, their meticulous work uncovering the chilling details of the crime. They found traces of Patrick's presence, his DNA, his fingerprints. Each piece of evidence, each tiny trace was another brick in the wall of the case against him. Simultaneously, the detectives were conducting interviews with Patrick's friends, family, and past lovers. Their stories echoed the same narrative. Patrick was a man obsessed. He was a master manipulator, a man who could charm you one moment and frighten you the next. His control over those in his life was absolute and terrifying. As the puzzle pieces fell into place, the case against Patrick de la Cerda began to solidify. The evidence was overwhelming, the testimonies damning. Yet despite the mounting evidence, it was clear that this was not a straightforward case. Patrick's obsessive nature, his ability to manipulate and control, made the investigation process a complex web of deceit and treachery. The investigators worked tirelessly, their pursuit of justice unwavering. They knew they were dealing with a man who was not only capable of such a horrifying crime, but who had meticulously planned and executed it. It was a chilling reminder of the depths of human depravity. But the horror of this crime was far from over. The investigation had only just begun to scratch the surface of the darkness that lurked within Patrick de la Cerda. It was a darkness that would continue to send shockwaves through the courtroom, the community, and the world. In the courtroom, the true extent of Patrick's chilling crime was laid bare. The trial, a spectacle of grim fascination, was a tableau of meticulously presented evidence and impassioned arguments. The prosecution painted a picture of a man consumed by obsession, capable of a heinous act that defied comprehension. And the defense, they fought an uphill battle trying to humanize a man who had become a monster in the eyes of the public. Every piece of evidence was scrutinized, every testimony dissected. The forensics, the bloodstains, the chilling recordings, all were laid down before the jury. A grim mosaic of a crime meticulously planned and ruthlessly executed. The air in the courtroom was thick with tension as the jury deliberated, the weight of the decision pressing down on them. And then, the verdict. Guilty. A collective gasp echoed through the courtroom. Some wept, others sighed in relief. But the overwhelming emotion was one of grim satisfaction. Justice, it seemed, had been served. The community's reaction was a mix of relief and horror. Relief, because a dangerous man was behind bars. Horror, because they had lived among such a man, unaware of the darkness lurking beneath the surface. The memory of Patrick de la Cerda, the charming man they once knew, was replaced by the image of a cold-blooded killer. The aftermath was a time of healing, of trying to move on from the shock and the horror, but it was also a time of reflection. How could this happen? How could a person they knew and trusted commit such an unfathomable act? The answers were elusive, the questions haunting. The horrifying end of a love story, a chilling reminder of the darkness that can lurk behind the facade of love. As the community grappled with these questions, they also grappled with the stark reminder that love, in its most twisted form, can lead to unimaginable horror. And thus, the tale of Patrick de la Cerda serves as a chilling cautionary tale, a grim reminder of the horrifying end that love can sometimes meet. The horrifying end of Patrick de la Cerda's love story left us with a chilling lesson. This tale of love turned obsession serves as a stark reminder of the potential danger lurking in relationships. It encourages us to be vigilant, to recognize the warning signs, and not to ignore our intuition. It reminds us that love should be a source of joy, not a cause for fear. Remember, love should never lead to fear, and obsession is not a substitute for true affection.